Welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and joining me today is Bob Dean, who is on the Calaveras County Library Committee, as well as a member of the Friends of the Library. Bob, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on the show.
It's kind of fun to be here.
That's right. That's right. We're going to be talking about libraries today, and many people might not know quite how fascinating they are, as well as how much they do for the community at large. But before we get into that, I wanted to give our viewers a little history on you, starting with when you first fell in love with libraries. When was that?
Well, it's almost a reified behavior because it happened when I was a kid. Growing up, I was probably the kid that they wanted to shoo out of the way when I went to the library because I was there all the time. And I kind of carried that experience and that love with me. It opened up worlds. It was a fascinating experience to be able to pick up a volume and look at ruins of some ancient city someplace, or something in current history. Particularly when I was young enough, Korea had just happened in World War II, and that kind of fascinated me as a young boy. So those were all the kinds of things that I spent a lot of time perusing in the library. Plus the people who worked there, the librarians, the volunteers, and everybody else were just wonderful people.
How old were you?
Well, probably. The strongest memories are probably 9, 10, 11, 12, right through there, And there are things that are common to all libraries, like the people, for instance. The experience that you can have by perusing the stacks. I would recommend for anybody who even has a passing interest in books and libraries to just walk down the stacks. Libraries are nonpartisan. You can find Chris Hedges right next to Rush Limbaugh. And it's what you bring to the library and what you want to take away that makes the experience a good one. So as I say, I carried that with me, even to the extent that later in my professional career, I became a rare and out-of-print book dealer, which was kind of fun. So,
you grew up where?
Pennsylvania, small town called Gettysburg. I think most people have heard of it. And actually had worked with the Big Brother Association in Philadelphia after college in the military. And at that point in time, I kind of burned out on people, cities, and the East Coast. And so I came west to go to graduate school and wound up at the University of Oregon. And it was like the line of that John Denver song, coming home to a place I'd never been before. And so I just never looked back. I enjoy the East. I still visit. I have family back there. But I'm fully rooted here in the West.
What did you study in graduate school?
I studied art history and art education. And I was planning on teaching, had done some teaching, but there weren't any jobs available at this time. It was right after Vietnam, and we were into a recession, not unlike the one we have now, except not as deep. And there were jobs wanting unless I wanted to become a nomad and go to Louisiana and then up to Kansas and then maybe out to California for a year or two and into the Northeast. I just didn't feel like doing that. And so I went into the antique business because I was trained in art history and kind of went from there. But the funny thing is I became a nomad. I used to travel around a lot doing shows all over the West. But that was a great experience too because I didn't enjoy the shows that much, but I sure enjoyed getting there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. How did you make your way from Oregon, where you attended graduate school, down to California eventually?
Well, I lived in Oregon for about 17 years. Yeah, it was quite a while. And I was doing a lot of business in California, and I met my wife. At the time, obviously, she wasn't my wife. And she didn't want to leave California because she had family here. And so I said, I'd like to find a place that has the feel that I had when I lived in Oregon, because I lived in a rural area up there. And we came to Calaveras County. And again, it was a place made in heaven. So that's why we located here. We were on the road so much, spending so much time in cities and stuff. I didn't want to live in a city. I want to live someplace where I want to visit if I were traveling. And so this was it. This was it for me.
Was it a complete random experience to find Calaveras, or did you kind of know a little bit about it? And then
no, actually, I didn't know very much about it. I knew the environment. I knew it was a kind of place. And there were other areas as well, but I didn't want to get caught up in the rat race that was the sort of thing where people were moving out of the area and doing the commute and stuff like that and pushing up prices. And we wanted to find some acreage where we could do gardening, We didn't want to pay for anybody else's amenities. We wanted to do our own renovation and restoration, and so we found a place that has been in some respects a burden, but it's also been a labor of love. So that's, you know, and we're very happy there. You know, it's just been a great experience.
What year did you come here?
We moved here in '89. And
where did you settle down in the county?
I live east and north of Mountain Ranch on Jesus Maria Road. You know, I'm going to start a new community called Jesus Maria because it's really distinct from McCollum Hill and Mountain Ranch and Railroad Flat. Even though it's not a community, it's still a place. Yeah.
And your wife has some very interesting garden selections. What makes her kind of well known in the county?
Well, she's an avid gardener, to the extent that that's where she finds her peace. That's her center, and we've got probably a minimum of 6 acres in landscaping and gardens. She's been an historic rose collector for years. We have several hundred roses that she's found throughout the Mother Lode and down into the valley and places like that. Some which are now extinct on their site. Plus, we've got, you know, hundreds of camellias. Not hundreds. No, we don't have that many yet. We're getting there though. Lots and lots of rhododendron, believe it or not. Azaleas, you know, lots of bulbs, many historic plants. It's been a real labor of love for her, and of course, somebody's got to carry the shovel. So, no, I enjoy it too. I don't want to make light of it. And,
yeah.
And so she's known for her gardening activities. And in fact, she just was recently interviewed, and there was an article in the paper about her in Enterprise. Yeah.
Wonderful. Not only are you involved with the library, but you are very much involved in a number of different organizations throughout the community. What are a few other things that you do? Well,
I'm a director with the Calaveras County Water District, and I was elected from District 2, which is the east and north end of the county. I'm a member of the Mentoring Advisory Board, the Youth Mentoring Program, by virtue of my experience with the Big Brother Association in Philadelphia. And
what is Big Brother? I haven't.
Big Brother's it's an organization that matches men with usually single-parent boys, mostly, you know, mothers and sons, just to give them the opportunity to have some male identity and have experience with people to help further that kind of thing. Youth mentoring, however, has gone beyond that, and they also mentor girls. And we're beginning to look into some programs where we might be able to deal with what's called now transitional youth, which would be between the ages of 18 and 25. But we've got ways to go on that one. But the youth mentoring program here in Calaveras County is very successful and has brought great benefit to many people in the county. And the volunteer base that not only that represents, but, you know, the library and the volunteer base and stuff like that, really says a lot to me about the people in Calaveras County. It's kind of a joy to be here, knowing the kinds of commitments that people are willing to make only to be able to serve somebody else and not just themselves. And that's a huge difference. You spend time in cities, you know what it's like. So it's really great to be a part of that process. I guess I'm involved with other stuff. I'm on the board at Mountain Oaks School, which is the homeschooling project. One thing I didn't mention to you earlier that I should mention is I'm on the board of the Mother Lode Land Trust. We're committed to you know, preserving open space and critical habitat and all kinds of stuff. And we've just recently received a conservation easement for Kennedy Meadows. We'll be getting a lot of PG&E's stewardship lands along the McCollum. We've got another conservation easement, so and plus we have this crown jewel we just got, which is the Cuneo Chuquizola property, which is on Jackson Gate Road in Jackson, right next to, or right down the road from Teresa's Restaurant along China Gate Road. 185 acres plus 4 or 5 historic buildings on the National Register.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge, and the opportunity to develop that into a living farm and you know, a classic foothill gold rush history and things like that is just huge. And we're contiguous to the Kennedy Mine. And I'd love to see something like that expand into Calaveras County. That would be really exciting to be able to develop this regional process, you know, where we can include, if not Tuolumne, certainly Calaveras and Amador, because, you know, we were once upon a time the same county until they stole our county seal, I guess that's as the story goes. But the point is this, that you know, it's just one more potential toolbox, a tool in the toolbox for economic development in this county, as are libraries, as are all of the things that represent quality of life to me, that make people want to be part of this community.
In an economic summit that was held at the Board of Supervisors chambers recently, you made a presentation. And were libraries part of that, or what was your general vision?
Yeah, they were. One of the things that people identify as being critical if you're going to have economic development is infrastructure. And I make a distinction between hard infrastructure, which are the roads, the DSL connections, water and waste treatment systems and stuff like that, as opposed to the soft infrastructure, which is some of the quality of life things I was just talking about. Libraries, for instance, I think are a huge, important part of the process of developing not just a quality of life, but a strong economic base, because it allows continuing education, it allows an opportunity for people to gather and share ideas, it allows people to identify a place in the community that is a place that they want to be. And of course, like so many things, particularly in this economic downturn, libraries have suffered as well as a lot of other things, and we can get into that in a little while.
And you know so much about libraries because you sit on two different, a committee, and then you're a member of the Friends. Right. Tell me a little bit about the Friends of the Library first. Well,
the Friends of the Library is classic 501c3. That's your public nonprofit or private nonprofit organization that usually has a mission for education and support of whatever their mission may be. In this particular case, the mission is to serve the public library in Calaveras County. And the public library is actually part of the government center, part of the whole county system, whether it's public works, whether it's the sheriff's office or what have you. It's just a department within the county. And Friends of the Library is as I say, a private nonprofit which serves the county librarian, whom I dearly love. Her name is Maury Huckstra, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say right from the outset that we are so fortunate to have a person like her at the helm. She's just quietly competent, and it's wonderful to see her in action. And she's tough. I love her. I think that Calaveras County can't count its blessings enough to know that they have somebody who's watching out for the library in the county and the services that library provides. Now, as part of the public operation, the Board of Supervisors has formed what they call a library commission. And that library commission sits with Maury on a monthly basis to discuss library issues that have kind of a public aspect to them. And we discuss budget issues. We discuss some of the needs for the library that would have to come through the through the budgeting process with the county and things like that. So I'm fortunate to sit on the library commission. In fact, that's where I started first, and then realized that there's a very, very close interrelationship. It's a huge interface between the Friends of the Library and the commission, and I wanted to be able to sit on both to be able to address some of our common issues. And so, that takes up a couple of mornings. So that's, I've got 15 minutes, I think, next week for something if I can fit it in. So
okay.
Yeah.
So Friends of the Library has been around for quite a while. How did it get started?
So 50 years old last year.
50 years old.
50 years old last year, which is astounding when you stop and think about it. This dinky little county. 50 years ago, I don't think we could push 12,000 people in our population, but we had a Friends of the Library and we had a county library, and it was started by several people. One of whom is Sally. Help me out.
Richard and Sally.
Yes, and. They were involved in getting it started. They wrote the original bylaws and the articles of incorporation, and Sally's still engaged. She's still very much involved. She's a member of the commission rather than the Friends, although she's part of the Friends down in McCollum Hill. But she's absolutely amazing, and people like her who've been around for a long time, and are the institutional knowledge of at least the public commitment to libraries, and I just they're wonderful people. You can't say enough.
The Friends of the Library, are there different chapters for each library in the county?
Yes, there are. And that's another remarkable thing, too. With a population of 45,000 people, we have, including the San Andreas main branch, 8 library outlets.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'd like a couple more, if you can imagine. You know, we've got them in Valley Springs, in Copperopolis, Angels, of course here in San Andreas, McCullamy Hill, West Point, Murphy's, and Arnold.
Wow,
yeah,
that's wonderful.
It is huge. It is huge. And every one of those has a paid staff for a few hours a week, probably not much more than 18 hours a week, but a tremendous backup and support system with their various friends, groups, and volunteers.
Are the libraries usually open most days of the week, or are they very limited?
5 days a week. We've had to cut back hours, as have a lot of libraries, but we still have a remarkable number of hours. And when I get into some statistics in a little while, I'll share that with you, because when I saw it for the first time, I was astounded, really. Yeah.
Bob, the budget has not been friendly to most organizations in
No.
the county over the past 5 years or more, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And I know libraries have been affected by that as well. Do you know a little bit about the history of what kind of cuts the library system has endured?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much across the board sequestration, if you will. Percentages have had to be peeled back, and we've had to identify what we could. We had within the request of dropping 10%, say, we had the opportunity to pick and choose what we had to defund, or at least limit the funds. Unfortunately, one of the biggest areas is the number of books that we can't buy. We're still doing it. We still have contributions, and this is where the Friends have become an integral part of this process, because they've stepped up to cover some of the shortfalls. But again, that's something that they cannot continue to do, because you know they live off the largesse of their actions and activities and events, and if they're able to build up a bank account, they have to support what's going on in their branch, and then they may be able to contribute some to the main library or the main library system if it's needed. But that's something. It's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and ultimately it's an account that's going to dwindle. I like to describe it as a hemophiliac who cuts their finger. It's a slow bleed, but you're going to die if you continue to bleed, and that's kind of where we are. I hate to put it in those kinds of negative terms, because there's some really positive things going on too, and a lot of the positiveness that's going on is related to the people who are working to keep the system viable and vibrant.
The Friends have been kind of funding things that otherwise would have to be cut, but that's going to have to stop, or the services will have to be cut at some point. That's what you're saying? Maybe.
You know, I don't want to equivocate it all, because you know we're really at a time when things could go in a lot of different directions. But the Friends is strong. The Libraries Commission is committed to supporting Maury, and I know that the Board of Supervisors is very much concerned about the quality of service that the library is able to provide, and they want to maintain that as much as they possibly can. So I'm optimistic that the will is there, and it's just a matter of you know, getting through this. We will get through it, but you know it's going to be a little bit painful. It already has been painful.
So we have the main branch,
right,
and then we have all these other smaller branches, but there is definitely a relationship. Books go back and forth.
Yeah.
Different communities use different ones, but the most resources would be at the San Andreas Library, right?
Yeah, except for instance, they have the Vernon Johnson collection up in Arnold, which is a natural history collection, and that was bequeathed, or not, because she's still living, so it's not a bequeath, but it was given to the Arnold Library to be housed in Arnold. And you know, we can circulate books from Arnold for people who are interested in getting them, but that's one collection that stays in that specific area. But I would say, yeah, what collections we do have are for the most part housed in the main library here.
There are different statistics that show the level of service that libraries can provide to their county. We're a small county. And yet, it seems that in some areas we're actually keeping pace with the big guys in some ways, and maybe in other ways we're not. But what are some interesting stats that you found?
Okay, well, that's why I have this book sitting on the table here, because I'm not going to memorize the statistics. I can promise you that. This was something that was put together by the California State Library. It was published in 2012 and reflects the years up to through 2011. So subsequent to that, we've had 12 and 13. where there have still been substantial cuts. But I kind of think that for the most part, the relationships still exist. And so this, even though this reflects what happened 2 years ago, I think that the patterns that you'll see in this thing are still very real patterns. And the first one that I came across that I thought was fascinating was the expenditures per capita. Now, what that means basically is how much the library spends per person per year to provide the service. And in Calaveras County, we spend the equivalent of $9.67 per person for library services in the county. The statewide average is $32.36. Huh. Yeah, think about that. That's less than a third of what the statewide average is. And this will be meaningful when you see what some of the other things are that we're doing. And I just wanted to mention that in Stanislaus County, the mean, of course, is, or the average that they're spending there is $15.75. In Tuolumne, it's $17.50. In Amador, it's $22. Mm. So we're certainly providing a service for a lot less money than other areas. And another statistic that I found fascinating. Oh, by the way, this particular publication, I believe, is available online at the State Library website. But when I take this back to the library, I'll ask them to put it behind the desk in case anybody wants to come in and take a look at these statistics, because they're kind of funny. And I'm not a person who enjoys looking at statistics, believe me, but this is kind of fascinating. There's another public access computer table here, and they talk about the use per capita again, and 0.81 people in Calaveras County make use of the library, electronic services, computer services. In Amador County, it's 0.63. In Stockton, it's only 0.36. But but Stockton's a library that's over 400,000 people. A lot of these statistics that I'll be reading are for the aggregate of libraries that are between 25 and 50,000 residents. But we're comparable in some instances to some library systems that are 3 times our size. But anyhow, I'll get to there. Another one that I found fascinating, well, just for a matter of comparison, our income in 2011 was, of all things, was $441,000. We're under $400,000 now. We have peeled easily 10% away, and I think we're down closer to 385 at the moment. I think that's what it's going to be. So I want to be sure that number, and if you multiply out the $7 or $9.67 that I mentioned per capita, it'll come out to about 441,000. So how that compares in the bottom 100 of libraries, that's from probably about 150,000 down. We're in the bottom 10. Just to give you an idea.
Wow.
Yeah. Expenditures. Well, our expenditures are at the same, obviously, $441,000, and again, we're at the bottom of the 100. Another one which I find, this is the collections. We added in 2011 about 4,600 volumes. Interestingly enough, we only subscribed to 28 periodicals. There's only one other library in the bottom 100 that subscribes to fewer periodicals than we do. And I don't know what the reason for it is, except they're expensive. So that's one of those areas where we probably had to cut. And we found that some people will give their back issues to us, but obviously that doesn't figure into the statistic. But it's kind of an interesting point. Now there was here. We added, when we bought 4,600 books, we added 3,100 titles. And you may ask the question, why is that? Well, for popular books, you've got to have more than one title. So that's part of the rationale. One of the things that's happened is the Friends have been very supportive of expanding the book collection, and so a lot of the new books that have been added by the Friends of the Library. They buy them for their own branch, and then they begin the process of circulation. Yeah.
We're getting a little bit short on time, and I wanted to make sure we touched on 2 things before we run out. One is the GED program and
Yeah.
one is the literacy program.
Okay. They're actually the same in a way.
Okay.
But let me get into the services, because this is really, I think,
Okay.
one of the most important telling facts. Calaveras County Library is open over 10,000 hours a year. You have to go to the next double the size and find one other library system that will have more hours than we are. We did ours on $441,000 budget. Their budget was $6 million. Then you get into libraries that are 3 times the size of ours, and then you'll maybe find 5 in that category that had more hours than we did. I mean, that's a huge commitment. It's just, it's information that boggled me. This is a thing that that really zeroed me in and made me want to focus and get to a real understanding of what we're actually providing. And our children's services are good. I won't go into that because, you know, the information's here and you can find it. And of course, now we get to the literacy issue, which you want to talk about in the GED. That's an area that has been under severe budget restraints, even more so than the library. And it's become, I think, even more problematic because AB 109, which was passed by the state and signed into law, which brings the probation, the people on probation into Calaveras County to be managed by Calaveras County instead of the state, brought a tremendous number of people with them who needed services for literacy. And so that has put a tremendous burden on Pat Ross, who's our literacy person. She's very, very good. And, you know, we're, again, another person that we're very fortunate to have. And again, like so many people, she puts in far more hours than she gets paid for. And she's been trying to work this literacy program and then have this added. Well, one of the things that's come along with that is some additional money, which is good. But one of the things that's happening with regard to the GED, which is actually a crisis that we're faced with right now, is that the state or whomever it is that controls the GED program is going to be changing it on December 31st. So beginning in 2014, the GED services will have a whole different look than they do now. And we have a lot of people lined up to want to get their GED, and we need volunteers badly. I asked Pat today what she thought she needed, and she said she probably needed at least 20 people. And she would like to have people who have computer skills that they can pass on to some of the people that they're tutoring, because, well, as you know, the computers have become a way of life. And there are a lot of people who don't have GEDs who don't have that computer experience. And beginning in 2014, all the testing will be on computers. It's not going to be, you know, filling in the bubbles on a piece of paper. And so things are changing substantially, and we're trying to meet that need. But right now, we're really at a bottleneck because we have a lot of people who need a lot of work, and we don't have the volunteers to help them get there.
Bob, if people wanted to volunteer or learn more about the library system, who do they call or where do they go?
Well, there's a specific number for the literacy program, and you would get in touch directly with Pat Ross. However, you know, if you call the general number for the library, and, you know, like an idiot, I can't quote the number.
Google it.
Well, you can Google it, or you can look it up into the government section of the phone book.
Okay.
You get a directory that'll get you to the right place.
And we have it on the screen for the viewers.
Oh,
right
that's
here.
right. That's right.
Okay.
You do. Okay.
Bob, thank you so much for joining us on the program, and we'll have you back to finish other topics.
Okay.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope you join me here next time.